panel discussion on your customers has been rocked. How should you react? How has COVID-19 impacted consumer psychology, and how will this affect their future behavior and decision making? A new precedent in customer behavior and voice has been set. How can business become future ready while remaining focused on their customers? How are fledgling business managing their new customers? When starting a new business, what should be prioritized and how important is the customers in this process? So today's panelists are Maneesha Bhusal, Director Head of CX JD.ID. Maneesha is an executive with 18 plus years of CX experience with various industries, including e-commerce, banking, real estate, and telecom. Having worked in 27 countries across APAC, EMEA, and US, she holds firmly to the notion that there is a solution to every customer problem, regardless of circumstances, capabilities, or budget. Next speaker is Vishal Salunke, Head of Sales Operation at Carousell. Vishal is a seasoned sales strategy and operation leader with experience in commercial effectiveness, spanning across e-commerce, software, IT services, and shipping industries. He is currently leading company-wide sales strategy, operations, and enablement for Carousell across its 8 countries of commercial presence. Next speaker is Manvi, GM APAC, e-commerce at Luxasia. An early member of e-commerce industry in South Asia, Manvi has in-depth experience across a various of e-commerce functions, including commercial operations, customer experience, product management, and marketplace performance management. Next speaker is Sreekanth Chetlur, Head of Digital at Matahari. Sreekanth has served at Matahari's Head of Digital since September 2018. In just a year's time, Matahari.com is ranked number 7 top e-commerce apps and number 1 omni-channel retailers in Indonesia. Next is Mayank Bhatnagar, Head of Marketing, Amazon Advertisement. Mayank is seasoned product marketer with 11 plus years of experience in technology space. He is currently responsible for driving awareness and adoption of Amazon advertising in Indian market. And last but not least, our moderator, Alex Ustaris, Group CIO and CTO and Head of Shared Service Center, Hijo Group of Companies. Currently, as the Group CIO, CTO, and Head of Shared Service Center at the Hijo Group of Companies, he is preliminarily responsible for developing new digital products and services that drive new business models and revenue streams for Hijo. Over to you, Alex.
Your customer has been rocked. This pandemic has brought down businesses down on their knees. So how should you react? Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to have an interactive panel discussion this afternoon. We will attempt to look into the future of your business relationship with customers, exploring how their changing needs and expectations are affecting your business. Whether due to the pandemic or not, customer behaviors are changing. Either you play catch up or you do something entirely different that will drive new customer behaviors. Now, think of the old school keypad versus touchscreen. Think of flagging a cab with your hands versus using Uber or Grab. Think of a garage sale versus using Carousell. Think of brick and mortar shopping malls versus Matahari or Lazada or Amazon. Now, I'd like to ask the first question to Maneesha and Manvi. I'd like to get your thoughts. It is a given that the pandemic has affected customer attitudes and behaviors. That's no longer the question. The question is, as businesses giving value to the voice of the customer, how do we measure changes in customer attitudes and behaviors? Maneesha, would you like to share your thoughts?
Sure, Alex. I think most important thing is to step back and understand is what to measure instead of how. So how part will be coming the next. Because there are several elements that drive the business satisfaction or the customer satisfaction. So first is to identify customer journey and identify the critical touch points. The next is then to identify the touch points is that has been influenced by the consumer behavior. It could be due to COVID, like in a country like Indonesia, there are volcanoes, there are earthquakes, and the things do happen. So identify what are the factors or the touch points that have been influenced by the customer behavior. And there could be several factors. There could be psychological factors, social, economic factors, could be personal factors. And then comes to the how part is to you will have the business drivers and you will have all these elements at the bottom. So you can think of it as a pyramid where at the bottom, at the top, you have this business driver, which could be revenue, repurchase rate, cost, customer acquisition, and then you link it down all the way down to the elements such as CSAT, customer effort score, could also be operational drivers or touch point drivers. The beauty is actually linking these two together. So it's like really literally like a pyramid. Now the
Mhm.
next question comes is how do you fit in the data? So the data would be like there are two things to it. One could be one is basically let's say surveys, focus group studies. I mean, I see that a lot happening in e-commerce today. And second most important thing is the trigger based. So we have customer transactions that are completed, and you can take that moment to ask the customer the feedback itself. So providing these two information, you fit into that pyramid, and there you go. You have on one hand you have a business impact KPIs, and on the other hand operationally you can explain the swings in those KPIs, which are of course affected through the custom consumer behavior.
Yeah. Very good insights. Define the what, and then you figure out the how,
How
right?
part.
So
Exactly.
thank you, Maneesha, for sharing your thoughts. Manvi, what are your thoughts on how to measure customer attitudes and behaviors?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think yeah, Maneesha, covered some of the key points as well. I think similar track for me. I think what I would kind of call out is that there's a lot of data out there, especially if you have any digital presence or e-commerce. So echoing some of the things that Maneesha said, but there is a lot of wealth of data out there. It's about the businesses basically being able to read and see what out of that is useful and actually drawing insights from that. So what are the customers searching for, where are they spending their time, what are they browsing, and what are they finally buying. So every single step in the customer journey, especially in e-commerce, you can really draw a lot of insights from that, and also compare that to how they were behaving previously. So in terms of what they're buying, for example, in COVID, I sell a lot of health and beauty products. So it was great for skincare brands or people selling mascaras, for example, but probably not a good time for other makeup or lipsticks or things like that. So there's a in terms of the customers already telling you what they're interested in. Even in terms of marketing campaigns, there can be a lot of A/B testing that can be done, right? Try different titles, headings, the way you approach the customer, the campaign shout outs, and messaging as well. The messaging track has also changed over time, right? So it's not about just loud marketing messages, but you have to show a little bit more compassion. I think this is a time that you can actually connect on a deeper level with the customers as well, and that angle sometimes we're not able to quantify very well, but I think that's where a lot of those testing comes. And then another bucket which I would say is that some things which will be very hard to measure or even have an answer to without trial and error as we go, are new social norms. So right now we are in a panel, in a virtual discussion. People are taking virtual meetings, attending conferences or events, and there's many other things like this that are happening, and new things that will come up as well in the new version. And there's the social norms have not been set up yet, so it's also an interesting time for brands to actually or people or businesses out there to make use of that change and habit and status quo to come in with solutions which customers might not have even thought of yet, and drive change in behavior in a way.
Yeah, very good insights also, Manvi. Thank you. I think the key takeaway from the sharing of Maneesha and Manvi is that in the first place, you have to get your customer journey right. Otherwise, you will not be able to, measure results from the voice of your customer. And secondly, I think another insight that we can gain from their sharing is that we should understand what drives new customer behaviors, like new norms, perhaps new technologies drives new customer behaviors. Now, let me turn to Vishal, Shrikant, and Bayang for my next question. Typically, we do surveys to get the voice of the customer. Is that enough to get what the customer needs? What proactive measures can we take to understand changing customer attitudes and behaviors? Vishal, would like to share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex. So definitely VOC is not enough. Being reactive is not enough. Technology as in e-commerce was already moving at a very fast pace. But what COVID changed was that immediate need to accelerate it even faster. Like during lockdowns, it was very urgent and essential that we move like physical brick and mortar retail or property developer offices or car showrooms online. So depending on what kind of e-commerce marketplace you operated in, a lot of players like us at Carousell, we kind of proactively started having virtual showrooms for car dealers. We started having video walkarounds for used cars. We started having 360-degree camera viewings or virtual viewing step by step inside a house for kind of going for like rental property viewings or even buying new places or used places. So these are the kind of things we had to proactively even kind of work on for customers without them asking us for it, because that was a need of the day. So that was the first part. We got to be very proactive on it. The second part that we are also doing to keep up with the competition and the faster pace of changes is getting our account managers on the field to work with the different merchants, whether it's electronic shops or brick and mortar stores for other goods or services companies or even car dealers or property agents or developers. We are getting them to give us feedback on what more would they like to see as a feature on our app or web as an experience for their customers. So this is going beyond the VOC or NPS and asking them what to fix that's broken, and rather asking them to, as part of like an open source ecosystem of ideas, try to curate that and solution for it. So those are the key things we are doing here. I mean, this is across the market in Singapore, Southeast Asia, not just in the company I work for, but also in the competition as well.
Yeah, so I guess to get a more accurate understanding of customer wants, you have to observe his physical and his spiritual behavior, right?
Yeah.
Good inputs, Vishal. Now, Shrikant, you want to share your thoughts on this one?
Sure. Hey, Alex, and hello, everybody. I completely echo with Vishal. Pretty much, he said whatever I wanted to say. So VOCs are important, but again, it's more about being reactive there, right? And in today's changing times, you've got to be super proactive to make things happen. And sometimes I think it is okay, and that when I say that, what I mean is that there needs to be some sort of an appetite for the business, for the stakeholders to try new things. Because in the pursuit of being innovative and trying to be proactive, sometimes you may make mistakes as well. So it's important to experiment. So one of those examples I can cite is the recent pandemic. This is last year in same time, March, April, when it hit us, and pretty much all our stores and all our malls, everything was shut, complete lockdown here in Jakarta as well as in the rest of the country. What we did was that we understood that, all right, we've got all our people, all our frontliners, over 10,000 people in our company, with all the stocks, all the brands, everything present there. Now the stores are shut. What can we do, right? And this is where the whole pursuit of getting into social commerce came into picture. Now, social commerce has been there, right? But for us, for our scale of a business, which is 150 odd store network across the archipelago, right, from Aceh to Papua, all the way, we have our stores. So it was more about we decentralize this entire process and give empowerment to all our store staff to manage the experience with our customers by using WhatsApp as a channel. So we integrated with the WhatsApp business account, which enabled and we created the segment customers based on our loyalty program, wherein our store manager was able to relate or reach out to the respective customers based on his or her cluster. And that way we were able to communicate with regards to, let's say, whatever catalogs were available, uh, using all kinds of payment channels with bank transfers and some of the e-wallets which are available in the market, as well as partnering with the likes of Gojek and Grab for instant deliveries. So we created that kind of atmosphere where we started giving try and buy kind of options for our customers while they were safely sitting at home, as well as we empowered our store teams to be involved, because a lot of these times, because at the end of the day, and not just for us, and this was across everywhere, cash is your most important element at this time when you have to protect your cash flows. So it was very important for us to engage all our teams and bring that value out. So more around the fact that how do you drive incremental value without driving incremental cost. So leveraging what you have and then driving something superior. Now, if I would have done some sort of a survey and asking my customers, hey, would you like this kind of service? I'm not too sure how much time that's going to take. Let's be honest, that the service will take time. So it is important for you to try out new things, because maybe your customer doesn't even know that there is one of these kind of services which exist. I'm talking about the tier 2, tier 3 cities where this doesn't happen. Jakarta customers are well aware, but the beyond one. So sometimes you just got to try new things, and maybe then as a customer, you realize that, all right, this is a service which I should expect from here on. So the customer may not even know what he or she wants at some point. So I think it is important at the end of the day to try out new things, because you never know if it clicks. And for us, this thing really clicked for us, and it continues even when our stores are open. We see this shop and talk, we call this service, using our social commerce, which is still driving revenues for us.
Yeah. Thanks, Shrikant, for your insights. So I guess it's important to stay in touch with your customer and keep trying new products or services that they just might wanna try. Um, let's turn to Mayank. Mayank, I believe we've met previously in my prior job. Um, I think we still need to do customer surveys. So how do you make customer surveys relevant to understanding customer behaviors?
Right. Hi, Alex. Hi, fellow panelists. I think, first thing I want to address, Alex, is why I believe survey is not always a good solution, right? One is that, when you go around doing a survey, you have a preconceived notion of few things which
Mhm.
have gone wrong around which you frame those questions. Uh, how sure you are that those questions or hypotheses are right? More often than not, people don't focus as much on the survey design as on the survey execution, and the chances you measuring, wrong output, is pretty high, right? Second thing, why survey takes time. There's another issue with surveys. See, survey only makes sense when you have a sizable number of respondents who fill in that survey, because only then you can make some sense out of it. Now, the problem is the moment you have a sizable number of responses, it means that that trend has already become mainstream. There is a problem which could have been addressed before. It has taken a lot of time. People are well aware of it. They have accepted it. They have internalized it. Right? And that's the second issue which I face majorly with surveys. I think, there are two ways which we at Amazon work towards identifying VOCs which are more proactive. One is obviously the data trend. I think Shrikant touched upon it, and I think the data trends has always been there. It was not because of pandemic that we are looking at something new. And I'll want to quote some example. Say in 2018, there was a very interesting trend which happened. People started to search for onion oil on Amazon.in, right? The nimble brand, the fledgling business were quick to take note of this trend, and they came up with a variant of onion hair oil. The PNGs of the world, the Unilevers of the world took a lot of time. And what happened was they actually missed the train. Within 3 months, when the trend started on e-commerce marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart, there was offering from the new businesses, a product offering for that segment right there. But it took years for Unilever and P&G to come up with that kind of an offering. And they purely missed it because they were not focusing as much on the data trends. What is customer searching for? What exactly they're asking for? What kind of reviews are they writing it? What are the kind of ingredients they're interested in, right? That's one. So I think data trends become absolutely important. Second is a cultural change, Alex. I think more often than not, there is a disconnect between the businesses and what customer is asking for. At Amazon, what we do in a very focused way is that you have to ensure that every employee beyond a certain level is spending at least a day in the field talking to customer, understanding their pain point. And this, why I call this a cultural trend, because while we have made it mandatory for one day for all employees at Amazon, it is more important for the brands or for teams who are day to day connecting with the customers. It's a very good audit mechanism. It tends to tell you where exactly the holes are. Is your payment experience broken? Is your delivery experience broken? Is your selection experience broken? And the way to figure it out proactively is talking to customers. And my one suggestion would be that businesses across levels or across hierarchies should connect with their customers more often than they're usually doing. It provides a lot of insights and is a much better day of addressing VOCs as compared to say VOCs or say surveys.
Yep. So you raise a very valid point, Mayank. The more you keep in touch with your customer, the more uh, data you'll be able to gather and understand customer behavior, which I think is a good segue to the next question. For many new business models, experience is king, right? So you've made mention of the several brick and mortar businesses that were too late in adopting new customer experience models, right? So what are the key results areas for customer experience in the age of COVID? I want to start with you, Manvi, if you want to share your thoughts on that.
Right. So I think customer experience has always been, important. That's something that companies have to actively invest into, right? And customer experience doesn't just mean a bit of what Mayank was saying. It's not just the frontliners or who are in the retail stores or who are picking up the customer service phones, but customer experience is the sum collection of all the different functions in the company, right? They all have to work and be geared towards customers, and then the end result is a good experience, right? So it's more of the effect. And I mean, now it's even more so important. I think, again, speaking a bit about the e-commerce world, I mean, the last year, great news for anyone who was in e-commerce on the business side of things, because business is great, and numbers are going up, and sales look good. But I think the world was also not prepared, even the e-commerce world, for such a step change overnight. And of course, the first thing that can get affected is customer experience. So the overall ecosystem now has to almost change, not just increase capacity, but actually fundamentally change, how your warehouses are set up, logistics companies, how are you interacting, the tech solutions that you have, can they take peak loads on a double 11, for example. So the overall ecosystem, I think we need to prepare sooner than we thought for much larger numbers in this part of the world, especially. And that, I think, fix and tech and solutions are coming into the market. I think, talking about customer experience, the other aspect of it that I would bring out is, as the world moves towards e-commerce in a more habitual way versus just deal hunting or things like that, but as it becomes a part of life, how do we actually elevate that experience? Customers are used to naturally going offline, talking to someone, picking up and discovering products. Today, I don't think we are at that level yet to allow product. People know the brand and they buy it, but are we really able to reach out to customers and provide that high touch, personalized experience online? Not yet. Today I work with a lot of premium brands, and we launched one of them recently, and we're trying to execute a online beauty consultation service. So we actually have experts at the back, and not just an algorithm tool which tells buy this product because this is the best for your skin type after you fill out a form or something, but actually a high touch personalized service, and chat while you still shop online. So there's many solutions that are going to come up in this world, right, from the e-commerce perspective. And on the other hand, I think from a retail or offline perspective, the game will get even harder. I think it's not just I'm available, in downtown in this store, but actually if you have a physical footprint now, it's going to get more and more expensive. So you really want to create an experience, even a form of entertainment, today, if you want the customer to really walk down and come to the store and, interact and engage with the brand, physically. So those are, I think, some of the things I think COVID was coming anyways, but it kind of fast tracked a bit. Yeah.
Excellent insights, Manvi. Yeah, I agree with you absolutely that it has to be a balance of key results areas for both high touch and low touch customer experience, to keep your customers engaged. Shrikant, from your experience on digital transformation and e-commerce, what has been the most challenging portion of keeping your customer engaged, given the customer journey when you implement the e-commerce?
Yeah, no, yeah, that's it's not easy. It's very difficult, and there unfortunately there is no hard and fast rule or a particular SOP which you can follow and it can work out for you, right? Um, but I think it was very early that we realized that accessibility, which used to be a big concern in the, let's say, in the old days, is not the case anymore. And customers are definitely they're very socially active now. They're very digitally native, especially the younger ones. With the emergence of all the brands available on Instagram shops and on Facebook and the rest of social media channels, I think it just makes process a lot difficult for, let's say, the established or the legacy brick and mortar players, because that's how it starts. Because it's difficult to move the needle when you're in such a big enterprise, because there is a level of bureaucracy, which I'm sure a lot of people would have faced even on this panel. So it is important to understand that you need to be humble, irrespective of how big a market share you hold for all these years, because it can change in an instant, and that's what we've been seeing. So I think that in itself helps us understand that it's very important as corporates for us to learn that what are these digitally native brands doing in terms of providing that superior experience or a much better experience for the customers. Because customers may not be very brand conscious. It really depends, right? For us, we are a very we're a value retailer. We target mid and mid up. And for our kind of customers, they may not be very brand conscious, but they're very value conscious. So they would still come to Matahari because that's a store they have been coming with their families, with their grandparents, and all of that. But it's very important for us to continue to stay relevant for the younger millennials, as well as the Gen Zs and all the other generations which are going to come up. So which means that we may have to unlearn a lot of things which we have been doing, and that has been a practice since the time we kickstarted our Matahari digital journey, wherein we are not just creating these multi-channel approaches of reaching out to customer, but with the diversification of distribution channels, it is also about how can we have an integrated, let's say, marcoms. How can we ensure that the brand communications as well as product communication happens seamlessly, wherein we have one set of data repository and we're able to interact with our customers irrespective of whichever channel they come from. So I think there is, and it's going to be a journey. I think we're getting there, but I think we're still very far off, because you will only learn new things as it comes. But it's very important to take notice of all the new players which are coming up, especially on social media, because that's where customers are spending so much time. So we are definitely keeping an eye on all of those and trying these new things. Not too expensive, but then just to do some sort of POCs to understand what can possibly work. But yeah, I think customer experience for sure is the single biggest metric for any C-suite today. In any of the board meetings, that's the first thing they will talk about. So yeah, it's highly relevant.
Yeah, yeah, I can absolutely relate to your experience comparing my current organization to the previous one. In the previous job, it was basically brick and mortar, and doing digital transformation was like pushing big dinosaurs down the road, right? And now in my current organization, it's basically greenfield when I started a little more than a year ago, and implementing digital transformation is just starting on a blank clean sheet of paper. So it's a lot easier. I'd like to get the thoughts of people in sales operations and basically customer experience. So Maneesha, would you like to share your thoughts on
Sure.
how yeah.
I think one thing I see personally see in last 1.5 year is EX. I think a lot of organizations spend millions and billions on customer experience, but unengaged employees cannot create engaged customers. I think that's the bottom line, and a lot of organizations forget that. So CX, combining the value of CX with EX is something that we see through the COVID, because there was a lot of focus on being empathetic to the customers. But what about empathy towards our own employees who are working day and night in the warehouse, in the customer service, frontline operations, going to office, and still being able to serve your business, serve your buyers, sellers, or even suppliers. So that's one thing will definitely change after this COVID period, is to give more equal importance to CX and EX. So yeah.
All right, right. Same key result area that we're looking at here in our organization. We balance customer experience and at the same time also give importance to employee experience, right? Um,
Exactly.
yep, yep. Mayang, in the age of COVID, what is important for customer experience?
Yes, Alex. I
Yes.
think one thing which I've noticed is, it's again a mindset change which businesses need to have. Digital transformation is the need that needs to happen. More often than not, the usual mistake which businesses do is, if they feel that e-commerce as a channel, say, is only contributing 5% of my sales, why should I pay much attention to it, right? I think there is where the problem lies, and the problem appears to be understated. See, what has happened because of COVID is people have become more cautious. There's a trend to digitally research before even making an offline, purchase. That trend, we recently conducted a study with Kantar for the Indian market. And the study had around 5,000 odd respondents, a fairly large sample represented of India's internet universe. And what we came to observe was like 73% people research about products and services on e-commerce portals before going and buying it either online or offline. In fact, more than 50% of offline purchases were influenced by what people read about those brands, those products, on online portals or e-commerce portals. So I think business usually, do not focus on this trend, and they should, because when it says, when the question is how do we improve our customer experience, you have to be where the customer are researching for you, reading about you, comparing you, with your competition. Those reviews and rating become exceedingly important. The frequently asked questions which customers are asking and which are being answered on e-commerce portal become exceedingly important. Those changes need to appear in your content, in your communication, in the way you package your product, so that's to you can stay to the honest to the customer, right? I think this is where the disconnect lies. Businesses feel that we're not getting enough sales from this ecosystem, and therefore we shouldn't invest enough. The problem is the other way around. They don't know how much their sales have been influenced. So I think one way I feel that businesses can do better from a customer experience perspective, and I agree with rest of the panelists that employee engagement, employee experience is important. It is important to assimilate the technology, but what is also more important is to look at the entire customer journey, and not look at from a channel perspective. Behave like a customer. What all do they do, and figure out where all you need to be. I think that's my input to it, Alex.
Good insights, Mayank. I absolutely agree that we have to. It's all about your branding and product presentation. You have to make sure that all the information is at the tip of your hands, tip of the fingers of your customers. Vishal, you want to share your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah, I think we're playing ping pong with each other's thoughts and having dibs on it. So most of the points are covered, but I think the key one from my side is all of us I know Manvi covered this, that, we all had a windfall last year. All the e-commerce players were having the last laugh and everyone started moving online, especially the latecomers. But we have to realize that, we are probably, most economies are going through their first recession in many years. Overall spending has gone down. So our customers, at least from an e-commerce perspective, our merchants who sell on our marketplaces are not really going through a good time. Their sales and revenue is down. So in these times, customer experience should focus on the value you create for those customers, on how you give them the biggest bang for the buck. How do you use AI machine learning to give them more leads and more transactions through your capacity and capability of giving them nitbits and notifications and pop-up saying, if you do it, if you try to sell or if you post within these hours, you'll have a better probability of selling and stuff like that. So AI, machine learning, and technology is going to be, I would say, the most important thing to add value. The second thing is also, you have to realize that COVID is temporary at the end of the day. We're always going to come back to a hybrid world with some form of retail coming back, brick and mortar coming back. Of course, it'll be a very, very new world. So it's also about readying our customers or merchants for that hybrid model, and getting them ready on things like social media, on things like digital transformation of their retail units is going to be key to customer experience from e-commerce perspective. So from a sales angle, I think that's where our focus is on today, and that's where I think we should also look at as the future.
Excellent insights. So I think everyone's sharing emphasized that we have to get the customer journey right in the first place in order for us to observe what the customer behaviors is really all about. And then we have to be proactive in constantly communicating and staying in touch with the customer so that we can understand what their wants are, what their expectations are. Are there questions from the audience that wish to be answered? I don't think we have any questions from the audience. So I guess that's it. I'll just wrap up for everyone. It's been a great panel discussion, sharing with Maneesha, Manvi, Vishal, Sreekanth, and Mayank. I think we all share the same sentiments that customer experience is king, or queen for that matter, as the previous panel talked about. And I think we have to get the customer journey right in the first place, so that we can keep tab of all the customer interactions, all the customer engagement. We have to keep a good balance of high touch and low touch customer experience. So that's it, Sinila. You're on mute.
Yeah. Thank you very much, all the panelists. Thank you for your time. I don't think we have any questions, but I do believe that people was just so impressed with your panel that they just don't know how to react on that. So let's give them some time to think about it. Thank you all for coming.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.